That's who I am. Let me tell you what we're going to try and do in this session. So, what I'm hoping that we'll do is I'm hoping, first of all, to really encourage you in your involvement in Lyrics and Lunch. I found out about Lyrics and Lunch first when I read our founder's book, and Lyrics and Lunch is mentioned in that, and as Jeanette said, she knows Tina, our founder, very well. And I came up to visit Lyrics and Lunch fairly soon after I started working for Embracing Age. So I think it might have been over a year ago now, was it? It was a little while ago. So I've been here and enjoyed you. And I do honestly want you to go away encouraged this morning about your involvement. I think Lyrics and Lunch is brilliant. I think what you do is amazing. And I think you should be encouraged in what you're doing. So hopefully you'll have time to do a little bit of that. And then we're going to think a little bit about the needs of those who are living in care homes in our community. So we're going to think about that, partly because that's what my charity knows a lot about, but mainly because of this initiative we're going to hear about later in terms of thinking about how Lyrics and Lunch can possibly expand their work into care homes. And in some ways, the best way to see the need to do that is to think about those living in care homes, what their needs are, and how Lyrics and Lunch can really support and enhance the lives of those who are living in care homes. So that's what we're gonna have a go at doing in this session. I want to let you know you can interrupt me at any point. I've got that written down here as well. I do not think of myself as the fount of all knowledge. I'm sure in this room we've all got wisdom to share, we've all got stories to share. If you've got a question to ask, just throw something at me, interrupt me at any point. I'm very happy to listen to you at any point, so feel free to do that. So, Jeanette and I, we've got something in common that you may not know this week, and that is that both of our spouses have had birthdays this week, Jeanette. So my wife had a birthday, Jeanette's husband had a birthday as well, and it was wonderful to be able to celebrate those things. And we've come to a celebration today of the work that Lyrics and Lunch doing. And what I want to ask you is this: have we chosen to come to the right celebration this week? So you've given up time to come along here on this Saturday. I had a little look around to see what other celebrations we could have gone to this week. Okay, here are your options. You could have gone here. I think I can do it with this, Jeanette. I think I'm okay. I think. So you could have gone to the celebration of the Zara clothes firm who makes fashion items, okay? They celebrated 50 years with the world's top models. You could have gone and done that. I don't know if anyone here is into fashion. As you can see, I'm not. So maybe you would have enjoyed being there though. Maybe you could have gone to this one, okay, so this is another option. The government this week celebrated geographers in their 7th annual awards, okay? So they had a meeting where the government presented things to people who make maps. That was going on in London this week. You could have gone here. You could have gone to Peru and celebrated the appointment of a new pope, okay? People in Peru are very excited. They see the new pope as one of their own because he lived there and worked there for a long time. You could have gone and celebrated that this week with the people in Peru. You could have gone, now this one I'm very tempted with. I wonder how many of us celebrated VE Day in some way anyway. Did people have a little celebration, a few of us? Yeah. I went to one. We had a great time. You could have gone and celebrated with Maisie Milne. She was 24 when it was VE Day. She celebrated in her care home when she's 104 VE Day. How amazing is that? It would have been quite fun to be with Maisie. So we could have gone there instead. We could have gone to the Tate Modern, who was celebrating 25 years. They describe themselves as the cathedral of contemporary art. Anyone into contemporary art? I'm not, no. I've been there a couple of times, and one time I actually really enjoyed the exhibition, and another time I walked through going, what on earth is this? Do you know what I mean? And I think that's probably what modern art is meant to do, isn't it? We could have gone and enjoyed that. We could have celebrated with Donald Trump, who managed, look at that, $600 billion he got from Saudi Arabia in an arms deal. I mean, can you imagine celebrating such a thing? And got given a $400 million jet as well from Qatar. But I'm sure he was celebrating this week. We could have gone and celebrated with him. We could have gone tonight, couldn't we, to Basel, to the Eurovision Song Contest final. Anyone into that? Yeah, a few of us are into that. Okay, we could have gone there and enjoyed the enjoyed the songs and the singing and the fun. If you're more into reggae, Birmingham was the place to be this week. So in Birmingham, they had a celebration of reggae in their city this week. Or we could have gone, now this is what I was tempted with as well, we could have gone to Ludlow, where they were having a spring festival with a celebration of beer and food. Sounds great, doesn't it, in the sun? That'd be pretty good. That's where we could have gone.
Could I say that's not as good as the Muncaster Castle Sausage Festival?
Hang on, you've got to say that extra point. Say that again.
That was not as good as the Muncaster Castle Sausage Festival, which I attended with my younger son.
Wow! Isn't that amazing? That's amazing! I love it. And do you know, that would be very tempting with me. So we're here today, and the question is, are we at the right celebration? And I would like to suggest we are at the best place to celebrate this week. I'd like to suggest we're one of the best celebrations happening in this week in our country. And the reason for that is not because I'm trying to justify our choice of choosing to spend time here. No, I'm saying that because of what the Bible says about what you and I are involved in our work with older people, and what you're involved in Lyrics and Lunch. So, I think we're right to celebrate Lyrics and Lunch because it's the people who are close to God's heart. So the Bible says some wonderful things, doesn't it? And here's a verse from Psalm 68, this is verses 4 to 6, says this: "Sing to God, sing in praise of his name, extol him who rides on the clouds, rejoice before him, his name is the Lord." Now here's who he is: a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows is God in his holy dwelling. He sets the lonely in families, and he leads the prisoners with singing, but the rebellious live in a sun-scorched land. He puts the lonely in families. That's what God loves to do. He loves to gather people into families. And you know, and I know, that people who are living with dementia and their carers can sometimes often be isolated from other people. And when I came here to Lyrics and Lunch, one of the things, I've only been here once, but one of the things I realised very quickly was that it felt like a family gathering together. That's how it felt. That's the feel of your groups. And it really is that. The people coming together in families, and that's something that the Lord loves to do. So it's wonderful because it's you set people in families. And you notice about the prisoners, it says he leads the prisoners out, but not just out, he leads them out with singing. And that brings me to my second point, which is that we're right to be celebrating Lyrics and Lunch, because what you do is a method close to God's heart. And the first part of that method is with singing. Here's what it says in Psalm 33: "Sing joyfully to the Lord, you righteous. It is fitting for the upright to praise him. Praise the Lord with a harp. Make music to him on the 10-string lyre. Sing to him a new song. Play skillfully and shout for joy." And singing is something really close to God's heart. And you know, and I know, from the work of Lyrics and Lunch, that singing does something really, really special for those who are living with dementia, because it taps into something deep within our souls. It goes beyond that factual memory and taps into our emotional memory and really brings life and joy and a great time. And it gets to that place where dementia finds it really hard to control and have influence. Let me tell you a little story. I used to go and visit a good friend of mine called Brian. Brian was diagnosed with early onset dementia, and I knew Brian his whole life, pretty much. He was older than me, so it's not quite his whole life, but it was my whole life. And he was a good friend of mine. And I knew him before he went into a care home, and I used to go and visit him after he went into a care home as well. And Brian, near the end of his life, had got to the stage where he was really struggling to hold a conversation. So it's quite hard to chat with Brian about anything. I used to tell him things, but it wasn't really, near the end of his life, it wasn't really a conversation. It was more me filling him in on a few things. But what Brian loved to do was to sing. So every time I went to see Brian, I'd walk in, I'd say a few things. Hello Brian, great to see you. I'd check he was awake before I shouted that at him, just introduce myself, but then pretty much straight away I'd say, let's sing. And Brian used to love certain Christian hymns, and they're the ones that I used to choose to sing with him. And the moment I started singing, Brian would join in. And there's one very special memory I've got of Brian. It is incredibly special to me. I think it could be one of my most special memories if I'm allowed to put to one side marrying my wife and the birth of my children. It's up there. And it was when I was visiting Brian in his care home, and I walked in as normal. I said, hey Brian, great to see you, let's sing. And sat down with him, and I sang one of his favourite hymns. It's a 4-verse hymn. And I sang verse 1, and he joined in almost straight away. Off we go, we're singing together. And then we got to the second verse, and I got the wrong verse. I started singing verse 3. I should have been singing verse 2, I got it wrong. So I start singing verse 3, and immediately Brian goes, no, 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 no. And then he starts singing verse 2 without me beginning it. And I joined in, and we sang all the way to the end of the hymn. And when we got to the end of the hymn, I said to him, Brian, you know that song better than I do. And he did. He knew it better than I did. It was a joy and a privilege to be able to go and meet with Brian. And there is something special about celebrating lyrics and lunch, because singing is such a special, life-giving thing to do.
Which hymn was it, Paul?
That's a great question. I always tell this story and I can never remember. Brian was a great missionary worker. He did a great work. He set up a charity that helped reconcile people in Rwanda after the genocide. So that was one of the things Brian did in his life before he got older. And it was always missionary hymns with him. And I cannot remember which one it was out of the ones I used to sing with him. But I still remember the moment, because it was just being struck with the fact that he knew it better than I did. That's just incredible. So singing, very special thing to be able to do with people, and it's a method close to God's heart, and that's a reason to celebrate lyrics and lunch today. Another reason to celebrate, I think, is sharing a meal. So lots of the gospel accounts, when you look at Jesus' life, talk about him sitting down and sharing meals with people. That's what Jesus did as he went about his ministry. And there's a famous verse in Revelation. It says this, Revelation 3:20. It's talking about Jesus. It says, here I am. I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me. It's a verse in which God is trying to describe the close relationship that a believer has with Jesus. And the way God describes that to us as human beings is to say it's like having a meal together. That's how close the relationship. Because there's something special when you eat a meal together, I think, just as there is when you sing together. There's something special happening with the relationships you're building with each other. And that brings me to my third point on this one. You're right to be celebrating lyrics and lunch because you are creating community and fellowship. At the heart of what you're doing at lyrics and lunch is creating community with each other. We're made, the Bible says, to be in relationship both with God and with each other. That is how we're designed by our Creator God. And we're not meant to be independent beings who exist in a kind of vacuum on our own. The world always pushes us towards independence. It makes us think that independence is like the greatest thing you can be. I'm a rock. I'm all on my own. I'm all I need. Well, we're not really designed like that as human beings. We're designed to be dependent, both on God and each other. And the wonderful thing you do at Lyrics and Lunch is create community and family together. You really do that. Christians often talk about wanting to be involved in what God is doing in the world. And I honestly think at Lyrics and Lunch, that is what you are doing. You are involved in what God is doing in the world. You are doing something really special in what you are doing and what you are supporting here. And one more point on why it's worth on celebrating today, and it's this one. It's right to be celebrating Lyrics and Lunch because it's always God's desire to reach more people. God knows that the world is a broken place. God knows that people are broken within his world. And he doesn't want his grace just to be reserved for a special few. He wants his grace to reach all people. I love these verses that are at the start of Mark. And it says this, Mark 1, 35 to 38. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions, the other disciples, go to look for him. And when they found him, they exclaimed, "Everyone is looking for you." What they're basically asking Jesus to do here is, come back to the place where you've just been. Everyone's looking for you. Verse 38, Jesus replied, "Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so that I can preach there also. That is why I have come." God's heart is always to reach more people with his grace. Now let me caveat this. It doesn't mean that you should feel any pressure at Lyrics and Lunch to expand beyond capacity. That is not what the God of grace wants. And it doesn't mean that you're failing if you're just doing the small things well. You're not. There's a great blessing in that. But it's always God's desire to reach more. And that's why it's great to meet together at these annual celebrations of Lyrics and Lunch to celebrate what God has done over the past year, to look back and say, look, God's been faithful in these areas, these new people have come along, this new work has started. Isn't it wonderful what God is doing in the lives of those who are coming along week in, week out? And it's great to celebrate and to look forward and to plan about what can happen next. When Jeanette and others set up Lyrics and Lunch, they had a real heart for this work. And in setting it up, they set it up in such a way that they looked to the church as being the solution to that. Can churches get involved in this and run this wonderful work that needs doing? And I'd like to suggest that the church is a good place to look for the solution. It's a good place to look to do these things. I had a lady contact me at my charity this week. She was contacting me about her father, and she got in touch and she just wrote me a short email to start with. And she said, I've got a dad who lives just outside of Brighton in a care home, and I live abroad, and he's living with dementia, and he's also had both his legs amputated from an earlier illness that he had, and he never gets any visitors. He just lives in his care home room the whole time. That's basically what he does. So the only people he chats to are the staff, who I'm sure are doing a wonderful job, but that's all he gets to talk to. There's no visitors going and see him. Is there any chance your charity could send someone in to see him? Now, it was one of those requests where you just go, oh, please let there be a solution to this. Problem is, my charity doesn't operate in that area at the moment. We don't have any volunteers on the ground there. So I could have gone back to this lady and said, I'm so sorry, we don't work there. We can't do anything. But actually, I thought, no, let's look and see if the church has got a solution to this. So I looked on a map, and I found the local churches nearby this care home. And I contacted them and said, is there any chance anyone could go and visit this guy? Told his story to them. And next week, a lovely guy from the local Salvation Army is going to go in and visit this man, and he's going to go in every week to visit him now. And isn't that wonderful? Absolutely wonderful. And the solution was in the church. I looked to the church, and guess what? I found that God had put someone there just for this good work. And you're going to think a little bit about the need for possibly expanding the work of Lyrics and Lunch into care homes. And once again, Jeanette and others are looking to the church to be the solution to that. And I think that's the right place to look. I think there's no accident with where God has placed people and where he has put people. And if he wants something done, he will have put the right people in the right place at the right time to do the good work. That is what our wonderful God does. And Embracing Ages, my charity, is someone who, we do a lot of work in care homes. So one of the reasons why Jeanette has invited me specifically along this morning is to try and fill you in a little bit about what it's like to be in the care homes in our country. Because when we understand a little bit about what's going on in our care home sector, and there's others in the room I'm aware who are specialists and know a lot about this as well, so do chat to more than just me. But when you start to understand these things, you can start to see what the need is like and what real difference we can make if we can get some Lyrics and Lunch things transferred over towards the idea of going into care homes. So we're just going to spend a little time now thinking about what care homes and nursing homes are like in the UK, and a little bit about what it's like to live in one. So, I'm going to give you a few stats to start with. These stats are from a group called Carter Wood. They are a consultancy firm who does a lot of research into care and nursing homes and what's going on there. So here's a few stats for you. There are somewhere around 11,000 care homes for older people in the UK. Okay, this number fluctuates all the time. I've heard it as high as 12,500. I've heard it as no lower than 11,000. So it sort of fluctuates somewhere between that number. But that's around how many care homes there are in our country. There are an average of 450,000, there are around 450,000 bed spaces within these care homes. So that's roughly how many people are living in care or nursing homes in our country at the moment. So that's a lot of people, nearly 500,000 people are living in a care home. The average size of a care home is about 44 beds, so about 44 residents. That's sort of the average for the UK. Some are a lot bigger, some are smaller. That's where we fit in the middle. There are around 5,500 care home providers. Okay, 80% of people who are running a care home are just running one home. Okay, there are some big players in the market. So there are some firms who run multiple care homes, but the majority of care homes are just independent. They're run by one group of people just for the residents who are there. There are, according to the latest statistics, around 4.3% of them are rated outstanding by the inspector, the CQC it's called. Around 72.2% are rated as good. So that gives you a little idea of where they sit. So that's around, around 3/4 are good or outstanding in terms of their provision. That's according to the standards the government set. You could rate it on different standards, but that's what the government is saying at the moment. Okay, so that's what the care homes are like, just sort of overall. Let's think a bit about what it's like staffing in care and nursing homes in the UK. Just before I go through a few of these things, I'd be interested. Can I ask you not to answer this if you work in a care home? Is that okay? If you don't work in a care home, what's your perception of the staff who work in a care home? Would anybody like to share anything? What do you think? Yes?
Not enough.
Not enough, thank you. Yes?
Foreign workers.
Foreign workers, thank you. Is that what you were going to say? No.
I was saying they're not good enough.
Not good enough sometimes, yes. Anything else?
They're overworked.
Overworked.
Mostly people from the Philippines.
So a lot from the Philippines.
Yeah.
Is that true of this area?
Yeah.
That's interesting. It fluctuates in various parts of the country where the sort of migrant population comes from. That's interesting from here, from the Philippines. Any other perceptions of care home staff? I'm not telling you whether you're right or wrong. I'm just interested in perceptions.
It's very
Yes.
variable, I would say.
Very variable.
One home to another.
Yes, and I think that is definitely true. That it varies massive. So you can't really make blanket statements about what care home staff are like. I think that's definitely true. Let's look at a few stats here. So in terms of care home staff, the vacancy rate for staff positions in care homes is about twice the UK average, just above actually at the moment. I did look at the latest statistics. So about 11% of positions in care homes are unfilled, compared to the UK average about 4.5% across all professions. So there's a big vacancy rate in the UK. That means at the moment there's a shortage of about 105,000 workers in care homes. So 105,000 positions that are not being filled. And of course we're all aware that in the UK we've got an ageing population, which is going to mean increased demand. Now can I just say, one of my little bugbears is that ageing population, whenever it comes up in the media, and even in this statement here, to be honest, that I've put up, it's always a negative thing. Can I just say it's a wonderful thing we've got an ageing population? It's because healthcare is getting better. It's wonderful. Well, we can actually live longer, healthier lives now, and that is an amazing thing. An ageing population is not a bad thing. It's a thing we have to adjust to, but it's a wonderful thing that we're living longer. I am so grateful, for example, that my parents are still alive. My dad, when he was my age, had lost both parents. And yet, at my age, I've got both my parents alive. That's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. Anyway, but we've got this ageing population, and that means there is going to be an increased demand for care and nursing home services. It's estimated, and once again, this is one of these government statistics, so feel free to disagree with them if you want, but they estimate we need about 627,000 extra staff by 2030 to cope with the demand. And they are among the lowest paid workers in our country, which is, in my opinion, shocking. So I had a quick look. The average worker in a care home earns between 11 and 13 pounds an hour. That's in an independent care home in the UK, according to latest figures. If the same worker goes to work in Amazon's warehouse, they'll get 15 pounds an hour. They get more. You can earn more working in a supermarket or walking a dog than you can looking after older people in a care home. Just pause for a second and note that the choices we are making as a society as to what we value and what we don't value. But that's what it's like. That's what it's like being a staff member in a care home. That's a little bit what it's like. And as you say, there's lots of agency staff. There's a high turnover of staff as well. So they find that's going on as well. Let's think now. That's what the staff is like. That's what the care home is like. Let's think a little bit about what it's like for residents who are living in care and nursing homes. Now, I want to start off by saying, and please do hear me on this, there are lots of positives to being a resident in a care and nursing home, particularly the quality of medical care you can receive and how they look after you if they're a good home, okay? It's a good place to be for a lot of people, okay? That is a positive. The reason I want to tell you about that positive first is I want to focus on some of the issues, not because I think these are bigger than the positive, but because when we can see the needs, then we can see how we can help. Okay, so that's what I'm hoping we can do. The research into people who are living in care and nursing homes is that they are twice as likely to feel severely lonely than someone who is living out in the community. Okay, that is from a recent study there. The question is why? Why are people in care homes often often feel more lonely than if they were living in the community? Well, there are some reasons for that. Firstly, it's possible to be lonely in a crowd. I wonder if any of you have ever felt this. Have you been, I'm sure I certainly have you ever been to a party where you're at the party, there's loads of people there, and everyone else has formed into little cliquey groups, right? And you're stood on your own and no one's talking to you. And despite the fact you're in a massive room filled with people, you feel alone, don't you? You feel it. You feel like, man, I don't really fit in here, I'm alone. It's possible to feel like that in a nursing home, to feel like you are alone, even though there's lots of people around you. One of the guys that our volunteers goes to visit was a lovely lady in a nursing home, and she used to enjoy drawing and painting. And at one point, our volunteers say, "Could you paint me a picture to show me what you feel like living in this nursing home?" And she said, "Oh, actually, that's a really good challenge. I'll have a go at that." Next time she went in, she presented her with a painting. It was this. She painted this. So she painted a figure. This figure in the middle is meant to be herself. And it's in the middle of a stormy sea. And she's alone. And she says, genuinely, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. Okay. So it's possible to be in this place where there are lots of people and still feel lonely. Here's another reason. It's more difficult for people who are moving into care and nursing homes to build meaningful relationships from scratch. And that's because older age and frailty obviously brings challenges, doesn't it? It brings challenges in communication, such as hearing loss, visual impairment, and that can make the building of new relationships more difficult. If you can't hear what someone's saying back to you, how can you make friends with them? If you can't see them properly, how can you make friends with them? It's tricky. It's hard enough making friends when you're younger, isn't it? It's a really difficult thing to build a friendship. It's hard, it's really hard when you're in a nursing home. Remember, when you're moving into that care home, you're moving into a place where you're going to live with a group of people that probably you've never met before, and you're not choosing to live with those people. You're choosing to live in a care home, but you're not choosing to live with that particular group of people. And suddenly you've got to build these new relationships from scratch. And there are other issues that come with older age as well, and frailty, that can bring further isolation. So for example, there was one lady who one of our volunteers used to go and visit, who never left her room at the care home. She just wouldn't go and socialise with the other people. And she could move around, she was fit and active, and our volunteer couldn't quite work out why she wasn't. Eventually this lady opened up to her and said, "Actually, I've got a real problem with incontinence, and I'm worried if I go out to the communal areas, I won't be able to get to the toilet quick enough if I need it." And just having that medical issue was making her isolated from the others. That's really sad, isn't it? It's so sad. That those things come in. But you can have these things that make it difficult to build new and meaningful relationships. Thirdly, and note this when we're thinking about what Lyrics and Lunch are thinking about later, 70 to 80% of residents in care and nursing homes are living with dementia or with significant memory loss. It's a lot of people, a big percentage of that population are living with dementia or significant memory loss. It didn't used to be this way. So if you go back 30 years, people went into care homes much younger and with less health issues. Today, our NHS's plan is to keep people in their own homes as long as possible. So that means, which is a great plan, there's nothing wrong with that plan. It just means when they move into the care home, they've often got a lot more issues than they would have had before. So a big group are living with significant memory loss, and they're living with a different type of loss as well. They're living with a loss of independence, a loss of possessions, and a loss of agency. Let's go through those. So a loss of independence. Suddenly, they're not the ones in control of their day. Their meals are when the care home decide their meals are. Their routine is when the staff can fit in the things they need to do. And it's a difficult thing for some people to overcome that feeling of, I'm not in control of anymore of exactly what's going in my day. There's a loss of possessions. What I mean by that is if the person has been used to living in a big house with lots of their own stuff, suddenly they're reduced to a single room in a care home. Now, care homes do everything they can to make that room as nice as possible, and they get to bring their most special possessions in. And you know, a good care home and good family members will make the room brilliant, but it's still not your own house. It's still not as big as your own house, and they're having to live with some of that loss that's going on as well in terms of how they're living. And they're losing agency as well, just as I said before, in terms of health issues. They can do a lot less for themselves, and they're having to live with that as they're in the care homes. And here's a key one. Here's a key reason why people are lonely in our care homes. People assume their needs are being met. The staff in care homes cannot possibly meet all of the social and emotional needs of residents. Good care homes do a brilliant job. They do such a good job, but they are understaffed and they haven't got the capacity to meet every single person's need in terms of spiritually, socially, emotionally. There was a lady who our volunteer used to go and visit, and it was actually in a care home where they ran a singing session. And they used to stay afterwards and chat to the residents. And this lady one week turned around to this volunteer and said, I love having you come in. I absolutely love it. And our volunteer said, why? Why do you love us coming? What is it particularly that you really appreciate about us coming in? And she said, do you know what? I'll be honest with you. Said, I really enjoy having a conversation with someone who hasn't seen me naked. Now, it sounds like a mad statement, but it was her world. She had a good relationship with the staff. The staff were really good in her home, but every single one of them had been involved in her medical care and looking after her and her physical needs. And they'd all seen her in those situations, and she just appreciated just seeing someone from outside who could just chat to her and be normal, who hadn't been involved in those medical needs and medical care. It made a big difference to this lady. Loneliness, according to the NHS, has about the same impact on your health outcomes as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's what it does to you in terms of your health outcomes. Now, I want to caveat all that I've just said by saying that care homes can be wonderful places to live. They genuinely can, and they can be the right place for people who are struggling to live independently. And some of us here are going to have to make that decision for ourselves one day, or for a loved one that we know. Let me tell you the story quickly about my granddad. So my granddad was in a care home for the last 7 years of his life. He had Alzheimer's, and it got to the point where he had to go into the nursing home in order to get the medical care that he needed. So he went into the home, and I used to go and visit Granddad in that home for the last 7 years of his life. This might sound weird to some of you, and in some ways it still feels weird for me to say it. The last 7 years of his life were the happiest my granddad ever had. I remember him when he wasn't in a care home, and I remember him growing up. He was a grumpy man. He had moments where he really lost his temper. Do you know what? He was smiling, he was happy, he was full of joy in that care home. He had the best, I'm convinced he had some of the best years of his life in there. They looked after him so well. So it's not that care homes are inherently bad, but it is that that it's easy to overlook people who are living in care homes and to think that they don't have the problems. It's easy for them to be hidden away. Often when someone moves into a care home, here's how it works. So let's imagine Linda lives just down the road from you, okay? And Linda's got lots of health issues, and she lives on your street. And when she lives on your street, you will keep an eye out for Linda. You and other neighbours will pop in to see her. You'll check she's okay, because you're worried about Linda. She's literally just there, and you're thinking, oh my word, I don't want anything to happen to Linda. So you pop in, and you make contact with her. Then Linda gets to the stage where she moves into the care home. And when she moves into the care home, all of you go, phew, her needs are being met now. And Linda suddenly gets ignored by everyone. No one goes to visit Linda anymore, because they assume the care home is able to meet all of her needs. Now the care home might be doing a wonderful job of meeting her care and nursing needs, but she still needs that contact with the people she needs. She still needs that friendship. And we all assume Linda's fine. But Linda's not fine. Linda still needs us to go and visit. People in care homes can still experience the same things that we experience outside of care homes. That's all I'm saying. They can still experience loneliness there. They can still experience brokenness, boredom, and loss while they're in a care home just as much as they can when they're living in their own home. So that's what it's like for some residents in care and nursing homes. A little oversight there. How are churches doing? So how are churches doing at linking with care homes? So care homes, in their kind of way they've been set up in our country, they've got a duty to provide for the spiritual needs of their residents. And in order to do that, they need churches to help them, okay? That's what they need. So how are churches doing? Well, let me give you a little overview, and as with most things, the pandemic has had an impact on this, okay? So even pre-pandemic, many care homes find it really difficult to meet the spiritual needs of their residents because they find it hard to get engagement from their local minister in the area. And that's because the minister and the church often miss the need that's there. It's this attitude again of their needs are being met and I've got more important things to do. And so they're not necessarily engaging in the same way that they do in other ministries. Let me tell you another story. In a previous life, before I worked for Embracing Age, I worked for a church. And I was the associate minister for the church, and I led a church plant. So there was this new estate just down the road from us. And there was no church on the estate. And the church said, hey, let's go and see if we can plant a church there, because there's a whole group of people, they've got no church. So great. So I was quite excited by this. We prayed it through, got a team together. As part of our planning meetings, we tried to identify community hubs on the estate. And so we went, oh look, there's a school. Okay, how can we have a presence in the school? Oh look, there's a doctor's surgery. How can we have a presence in the doctor's surgery? There's a shopping precinct. How can we have a presence in the shopping precinct in terms of letting people know who we are, what we're doing, and be part of this community? So we start all this planning. 6 months down the road, in one of our planning meetings, one of the members of my team turns around to me and says, Paul, have we thought about the nursing home? And do you know what? I'd missed it. I'd missed it because it was on the corner of the estate, and it was quiet, and it was tucked away, and it was like it was out of sight and out of mind. And to my shame, I'd missed it. And so we had to rejig what we were doing. We had to say, look, how are we going to include the nursing home in our plans here? But I missed it. I overlooked it. And it's so easy to do that. Where churches are conducting services in care homes, it needs a bit of work. And it needs some work because there's often really poor communication. So there's poor communication from the church to the care home about when they're coming in and what they're doing. There's often poor communication in terms of getting the residents to the right place so they can be part of the meeting, who want to be. So often services are poorly attended. Churches find there's, as with most things, there's a shortage of volunteers to help. And because of the difference between the sort of culture within a care home and the culture within a church family, and the type of people in a care home, and the type of people in a church on a Sunday morning, often the ministers don't know what to do. So they're sort of stuck between two worlds. They're not sure exactly what to run or how to engage things. And so often they don't do anything. Now, post-pandemic, I'm afraid it's got worse, and that's because, quite rightly, COVID shut the doors of the care homes. We needed to do that to protect people. And when they shut the doors to the churches who were going in as well, quite rightly at the time. But when the doors reopened, not all the churches went back. In fact, lots of them didn't. So that link got cut by the pandemic, and people are struggling now to re-engage. And care homes can often be down the list of priorities for churches. The holy grail of church ministry, if you chat to any church leader, is always the young family. If you gave them a choice as to who to get along to church, if you said you could have one person, one group join your church, just one, who do you want? They go, I want the young family. I want the husband, wife, and the 3 kids. That's who I want. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with trying to reach the family. I'm involved in the youth and children's work in our church. I love it. Absolutely love it. And there's a real passion and desire to reach out to families and young people, but we need to value people at every stage and every age in life. There are, as I said, over 11,000 care homes in the UK. There's 50,000 churches. That's how many we've got. If just 1 in 4 churches could get involved in their local care home, we could make such a difference across this country. That's one of the things we try and push for at Embracing Age. So let's move on finally to what difference can lyrics and lunch make in care and nursing homes? Well, I am convinced that the difference that lyrics and lunch makes outside of care homes can be made inside care homes in the same way. I think it's a lovely, I think what you do here is so easily transferable that I just think it will work. You can reach those close to God's heart, as we heard at the start. Hopefully I've helped you see the need of people in care home this morning, and that hopefully gives us the desire to want to reach them with God's grace. You can use God's given methods that you have, the singing and creating community and battling isolation that happens in lyrics and lunch outside of care homes can happen in care homes as well. You can do the same things, gathering people together, using singing as that method of joining and bringing joy and life to people. And you can reach more people with God's grace if you embark on this. The church needs to be involved in this work because there's no one else who's effectively doing it at the moment. At least I don't think so. And the great thing is that at Lyrics and Lunch, what you can do here is you can bring a method that actually works. I'd like to suggest that what you do here at Lyrics and Lunch, transferred to a care home setting, could actually well be more effective than churches going in to run a service in the care home. Because often what the church does is they'll pick up the normal format of a service that they do on a Sunday morning, and they'll plonk it in the middle of a care home and do the same thing. But what they haven't realised is that 70 to 80% of people who are in that care home are living with dementia or significant memory loss. And actually they need a different way to engage with this truth and this wonderful thing. So I think your model works really well in there. And I think you can supply something that the care home can't supply on its own. So you can add to their work. We always, when we go into care homes, just to let you know, we always go in positively. We want to be positive about care homes. We want to encourage the staff. They are overworked. Encourage them. We want to tell them that they're doing a great job. We want to add. We're not going into a moan that these things aren't happening. Of course they're not happening. They haven't got the capacity to happen. We want to go in and add to their work and say, look, let's enhance what you're doing with what we can offer. And here's one thing you can offer. I was thinking about specifically, what can Lyrics and Lunch do in a care home that the care home staff might struggle to do themselves. Here's one thing I thought about. It's been mentioned already, lots of our care home staff were born abroad. And that is true. A significant number of them are. It's not true in every care home, but it is often true in the care home sector. Those people who've lived abroad, they might be doing a brilliant job at caring for the people in terms of meeting their medical and physical needs. They don't know British culture. They didn't grow up here. They don't know, I do like to be beside the seaside. They don't know it. They didn't sing it as a kid. We did. You did. You know the songs that people like. You know the culture that people like. And you can bring that to the care home in a way that will really engage with British older people living in care homes who've had that background. You bring that nostalgia smacked where it's needed, where other people can't necessarily do that. So that's one way where I do think you can make a real difference. And I think it can be transformative for the lives of the residents, because as we've already said, there's something incredibly special about singing. It links with the emotions, the deep emotions, not just the factual memory, and it brings joy and life to people. And no one does that better than Lyrics and Lunch outside of care homes. And I think you could be ones who do it the best in care homes as well. I'd love to show you a video if I can. Just to, if you're not convinced of the transformative power of music, and I suspect most of us are, let me show you a wonderful video. It's a truly wonderful video. You may have seen it before. It's about a lady called Gladys Wilson. And Gladys was living in a care home. And she's going to get visited by a pioneer dementia nurse who was called Naomi Fell. Let me get her name right, Naomi Fell. Now Naomi Fell, brilliant, like pioneering, tried new things, worked out new techniques, really changed the scene in terms of people living with dementia in care homes. And she's going to visit Gladys Wilson, who's a Christian lady, who's in the advanced stages of Alzheimer's. And she's got to the stage where she's non-verbal. So others think that she's beyond connection. So people are saying there's no point anymore. We can't really connect with Gladys. And Naomi disagrees. And let's watch a visit of what happened. Let's watch a video of what happens when Naomi goes to visit Gladys.
When people are very old and deteriorated and no one enters their world and they're just sitting there, they will withdraw inward more and more. And their desperate need for connection is all now inside. And if a person is all alone, even if they're very, very deteriorated, there's a longing for this kind of closeness. Mrs. Wilson? Hello. You want me to sit? Can you see me good? Gladys Wilson is a wonderful example of a person who is in the phase of repetitive motion, where people use movements, repetitive movements, because they don't have any more speech or very little speech, but they have human needs that need to be expressed. You're crying. You're crying. You have a tear right here in your face. You have a little pain. You don't want me to touch you. You're very sad. Can you see me? Can you let me in a little bit? You think? Just a little? You think I could be with you and Jesus for a minute? Jesus loves me, yes, I know, for the Bible tells me so. I used music, because when speech is gone, music, especially with Gladys Wilson, it was religious music, because there's emotion tied to it and safety tied to it. So I used her old church songs. Jesus loves me, yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me, The Bible tells me so. Can you open your eyes now? Do you see me? Feel safe and warm? Yes? Can you sing with me? He's got the whole world in his hands. 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 He's got the mothers and the fathers. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the mothers and the fathers in his hands. He's got the whole world in his hands. He's safe. You feel safe? Yeah. With Jesus? Yeah. And me?
Isn't that a lovely video? It's just incredible. It gets me there. I've watched that so many times, and it gets me there every time. Naomi Fell is a specialist. She's the best at what she does. Don't expect to be on her level, but music is transformative for people's lives, well-being, joy, quality of life. One of the reasons I wanted to show you that video was that a month and a half ago, I went down to a church in Bournemouth, and I was going to visit to support their care home ministry. And one of the volunteers came to chat with me, and she told me, you know, when Gladys Wilson started to tap along to the rhythm of the music, she was telling me that happened when her group went to visit their local care home and how special it was. She was telling me there was a lady sat there who was just moving a hand like this before they started the singing, and then when they started the singing, suddenly she was tapping along in rhythm. And she said, you know, they were all tears in their eyes while they were playing, but so special. I honestly think Lyrics and Lunch can make a tremendous difference if, God willing, you can expand with the thing we're going to hear about later into care home ministry, and we look forward to working alongside you as you do that. So at Embracing Age, we've got some support for people who might be going in. We can help you with connections with care homes. Sometimes it's tricky, sometimes it's easy. Sometimes if you've got care home staff who are supportive and others, it's dead easy to get in. Other times, some care homes you might want to connect with, or churches you might want to connect with, they might be a bit suspicious of you to start with. Who is this group? What are they doing? We can help with those conversations to get you through the door so that you can do your wonderful work. But I'm really excited about what you're planning to do. I'm really excited about watching what God does through Lyrics and Lunch over the coming years, and honestly excited to be supporting you as well. I'm going to stop there. I've reached the end of my time, and that's plenty from me. Does anyone, before I go back to my seat and pass back to Jeanette, does anyone have any specific questions for me? Any specific comments they want to make at this point, or are we all happy?
I've got a specific comment.
Yes, let me come to you.
I talk too much.
No, please do talk.
Well, Reg wants to say something. I didn't quite see.
You go first, I'll go to Reg first.
Well, one very, very important thing that's not been mentioned, which gets to the point I could have made in my little tiny bit later, and that is the importance of hearing issues.
Yes.
I was suspected by my dear family, by my wife and my son, that I was losing the plot, big time.
And it was just because you couldn't hear.
Yeah, because I was answering questions that weren't asked.
Yeah.
And as soon as we discovered, really, it was hearing loss, and I decided I must do something about it, well, I've certainly got a bit longer to go.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So that's me. So, hearing is a major issue.
Yeah. I totally agree. One of the things you can do, if you once you've got a church that's linking with a care home, in terms of doing something like Lyrics and Lunch in a care home, hopefully you'll have the opportunity to help through conversations with people afterwards with some of these things as well. There's so many things that can be a real help to people in care homes. Depending on who the person is and what the care home's like, the tech available now is also incredible, that you can also be part of bringing that into the care home. So for example, there's a Alexa style device now that you can set up in a room, and rather than the resident have to do anything, a family member can call in at any time and just talk to the resident. So it's like a phone line. You can basically open yourself from the other end and have a chat to them, and the care workers can cover it up at the point when they're doing medical things in the room that aren't appropriate to be seen. But basically, there's a load of other stuff that you can bring in and offer support, completely aside from lyrics and lunch. But you're dead right. Hearing loss is such a major thing, and it affects how people view you. Yeah.
If you were 93,
Yeah.
like my dear sister-in-law,
Yeah.
in a local very good care home,
Yeah.
and she doesn't know why she can't hear anymore, even though
Yes.
she's got hearing aids, how the heck do you expect her to be able to, first of all, recognise the problem that
Yes.
she's got, and to put these blooming fiddly things in?
Yes. Yeah. It is like that, and it's and things like that you can help support the care home staff with as well. But that's a really helpful point.
Thank you, David.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to relate my experience of a very, very elderly mother living in Scotland who was very independent and as a consequence was an enormous worry to me, to the extent that I was travelling from Lancaster to Perth in Scotland twice a week. Eventually got her into a care home, and it wasn't the best years of her life, but they were much, much better than the previous years.
Yes.
And my observations, you didn't mention, is when I visited regularly, there were lots of family
Yeah.
who played a huge role
Yes.
in the care.
Yes.
But my observations of staff were they got the people living there up in the morning. They got them dressed, they got them changed, they got them showered. Then they put stuff in their mouth, and then a few hours later they were dealing with the stuff coming out the other end, and then they were getting them ready for bed. And I thought, what a horrible job. Why can't they have time to engage with their clients? And I brought that to the attention of the care home. I talked about volunteers coming in because I would go and help my mother with her lunch, and other parents would. And I think that the music thing's fantastic. But care homes need volunteers to go in.
They do.
To make those who work in care homes jobs much, much more fulfilling.
Absolutely.
Because they are at the worst end of everything, and I think they can develop close relationships with their clients, but they're not given enough time to do so.
No, that's the key. It's the understaffing is the key to that. That they're having to manage the importance. They're having to rank things in importance, and of course the physical and medical needs are top of that list. And then if they're just not got the staff hours, they just can't do the other thing. And it's so transformative. And the thing where you can be truly transformative. So if there's a resident living in a care home who's got lots of family visiting all the time, they're likely to be in quite a good place. It's not necessarily true, but they're likely to have a good community, good fellowship, good chats, all those things going on in the week. You want to try and spot the people who are missing out on that, because there are those within care homes who aren't getting those visits, who aren't getting the family, and then, as you say, the staff haven't got time to sit down and have a long chat with them. They just don't have that in their pressured day. They haven't got the space to do that, and that's where you can make such a difference. And you'll find that if you do go in, if a group goes in and runs a lyrics and lunch style thing in a care home, you'll find one of the most precious bits will be the chat afterwards. It'll be really, really good. Great, so let me jump over here, and then I'm hanging around for the rest of the day, so I'm not disappearing off, so there's plenty of time to chat to me one-to-one if you've got a question you don't want to ask in front of the room.
The foreign workers actually are quite a big problem if they're not English-speaking
Yes.
workers.
Yes.
Plus the bad hearing.
Yes.
A lot of people don't understand what's
Yes.
being said to them anyway.
Yeah.
So I've got to encourage British people
Yeah.
to work in British care homes.
Yeah, I don't. The government just haven't got a handle on this yet. They don't really know where they go. I don't know if did anyone watch Question Time last night? So they were talking about the sort of shift in stance of the current government in terms of immigration and one of the big debating points on that was people saying, well, what about the care home staff that we need because they're all coming in from abroad? If we're going to cut off that supply, who's going to do this? And it's a problem that no one's got to grips with yet, and it is really hard. By the way, one of the best things you can do if you've got a family member or a friend in a care home is to help the care home staff to know who they are. So if you can put things on the wall that say, John used to be a welder and used to work in this way. Because of course these guys, a lot of the staff meet them for the first time when they're in the bed and they're just this frail elderly person. You need to help them understand who the person really is, and then a good care home staff member will be able to engage better because they'll know a bit of the backstory of the person. Yeah.
I've got a friend who Jeanette knows, Betty, who just lies in a bed every day after a stroke. And I go every week, and I've done her a scrapbook.
Brilliant.
From when she was in, so I check Jeanette knows this, I check lots of photographs, and I write everything round, and all the staff look at them, because she used to live in Australia, and she needs a lot more people going in to see her.
Yes.
She's very lonely, and she does need lots more company, and we go, there's 5 of us what come here, and we go and we sing with her.
Brilliant.
And we do lots of things for her. But the staff are beautiful, but they're too busy to do what we're doing. And I've done that for the last 2 years since she's been in, and it makes such a difference.
Well, it makes such a difference.
And she's a beautiful person.
It's a short part of your week,
Yeah.
but for her,
It gives me, I get back
more
such a lot from it. Yeah.
I can
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. That's brilliant. I think we better stop there. But if you want to chat to me at all during the rest of the day, I'm going to be sitting around, joining in with everything. I'm looking forward to hearing from the other inputs and speakers today. So any point you want to chat about anything, or if it's something that's completely unrelated to what I've said today, but something that my charity might be able to support you doing, come out.